Okay, so today's video is about understanding the phenomena of pleiotropism. Pleiotropism, where a kind of a genetic inheritance pattern where one gene is responsible for controlling several unrelated different biological characteristics in an individual or organism. And if that single gene was to be disrupted through a mutation, that is a single gene mutation, let's say if there was a point mutation, an insertion, deletion, duplication in that single gene, several biological characters will also get disrupted. So it will show multiple effects. And to understand the phenomena of pleiotropism, or how pleiotropic genes, if they are mutated, what kind of genetic and metabolic disorders they can result in. A good example for the same would be phenylketonuria, right? So everyone is very well versed with phenylketonuria, right? As the name indicates, it is a disorder where phenylketones, toxic compounds called phenylketones, are being generated. So how do we, whenever we are to understand a genetic metabolic disorder, first we have to understand the normal biochemistry of the pathway. So all of us have this general pattern in our minds, right? That the DNA has several nucleotide sequences which code for a specific protein product, enzyme, which is playing a very important role in our metabolism. So if that gene or that nucleotide sequence was to be disrupted via a mutation, and someone was to inherit that copy of the mutated gene, and suppose someone inherited both the copies which are mutated from both the parents, now this person is definitely going to suffer from that genetic condition. So let's first understand what kind of a disorder is phenylketonuria if we want to understand its pleiotropic effect. Let's understand that phenylketonuria is an autosomal recessive genetic metabolic disorder. When we say autosomal, what we are trying to imply is that the gene for phenylketonuria is present on an autosomal chromosome, right? So any of the 22 pairs of chromosomes, right? Not the sex chromosome. Number two, when we say it's recessive in nature, what we are trying to convey is that for an individual to suffer or for an individual to develop this genetic disorder, they will need to inherit from both the parents the mutated copy of the gene, right? So this disorder will not manifest itself in the presence of a correct copy of the gene. So the correct copy of the gene ensures that it masks the effect of the mutated copy. So we can see the inheritance pattern. Let's say what kind of parents would be requiring genetic counseling, or what kind of parents will have the risk of giving birth to a newborn with the genetic disorder phenylketonuria. Both of them would need to be carriers. Now carriers are unaffected themselves, but they can pass the gene and to other offspring which can become carriers, or that can result in an affected offspring as well. So this is very interesting. Suppose capital R is the normal copy of the PAH gene. For now, just remember that the gene which causes phenylketonuria, if that gene was to be mutated, disrupted, that is PAH, the enzyme will not be produced, or it will be deficient, and that's why the offspring or the newborn is suffering with this genetic condition. So just to understand that, suppose capital R is the normal PAH gene, small r is the mutated PAH gene, and what do you see? If the parents are unaffected carriers, there is a 25% chance that one of their offspring, if they have 4 offsprings, one of them would be affected individuals, the other 2 will be carriers, and one would be normal unaffected. So that is what it is implied by the fact that it's an autosomal recessive genetic metabolic disorder. Now let's understand that the frequency of phenylketonuria varies in different parts of the world. and in different ethnicities as well, right? So, for example, in our own country, for every 18,300 newborn children, you have just one case of phenylketonuria, right? So, it's very important now to understand what is the genetic cause for PKU or for PAH, phenylalanine hydrolase deficiency. It is also called the PAH disease, also called the Falling's disease. So you should be clear with, one genetic disorder may be referred to as with different names and connotations. So the autosomal chromosome, chromosome 12, it has the PAH gene, the genetic sequence, the nucleotide sequence which is responsible for coding the enzyme, the protein enzyme, phenylalanine hydrolase, right? So if this gene, due to any mutation like a deletion or a duplication or a point mutation, it gets disrupted, you won't have the enzyme being formed. And therefore, this enzyme, if it is participating, actually it participates in a number of important metabolic pathways. If it is not formed, it is not synthesized naturally. Of course, a lot of metabolic effects and a lot of disruptions will be seen in the individual suffering with this genetic condition, right? So, of course, the PAH gene is also known as the PKU1 and it has different names. So, just remember that this case, phenylketonuria, is very interesting because it is a single gene disorder. There is just one gene for PAH and it is getting either disrupted, mutated because of a point mutation or a deletion or a duplication, right? And because of which the normal protein product or enzyme phenylalanine hydrolase is not synthesized. And if this enzyme is not synthesized, we will now see how the biochemistry gets disrupted badly, which results in several symptoms throughout the body. It has several bad effects throughout the body which can be seen. Multiple phenotypic responses, unrelated responses in the body will be generated, right? And that is how you correlate phenylketonuria with pleiotropism. So I hope this much is clear to all. Now, the underlying cause. We have talked about the chromosomal position, we have talked about the genetics, we have talked about which gene is getting disrupted, which enzyme is not being formed. Now, what is the role of phenylalanine hydrolase? So this is of great importance that in a normal human being, a healthy human being who's not suffering with this condition, phenylalanine is converted into another amino acid called tyrosine in the presence of the enzyme phenylalanine hydrolase, right? So individuals who are suffering from phenylketonuria, remember, because of the mutation, they are not synthesizing this enzyme. And now imagine if someone is not naturally synthesizing this enzyme, naturally phenylalanine will not be converted into tyrosine. Now, what was the relevance? What is the relevance of discussing these amino acids in the metabolism? Phenylalanine and tyrosine both are aromatic amino acids because they have the benzene nucleus, right? But phenylalanine is an essential acid, which means that normally our body will not naturally synthesize phenylalanine. So it needs to be added, it needs to be taken as, within our diet and, in our food requirements. But tyrosine is non-essential. That is, our body synthesizes it. And we can see that phenylalanine, in the presence of the enzyme phenylalanine hydrolase, gets converted into tyrosine. And what's the relevance of tyrosine? Tyrosine is participating in a number of other metabolic reactions, like it is involved in the synthesis of the pigment melanin, right? It is involved in the synthesis of some very important neurotransmitters, chemical messengers like dopamine, right? So if the enzyme is not being produced because of the single gene disruption, mutation, none of this entire metabolic pathway can ever be completed. So that is what we see in case of an individual where there is absence of the enzyme PAH, there's deficiency because the gene is mutated on chromosome 12, there is no tyrosine synthesis. As a result, melanin synthesis is badly affected. Neurotransmitters and chemical messengers in the neurological system is badly affected. Therefore, what we find is instead, in the affected individual, the amino acid phenylalanine, it accumulates in high concentrations because further metabolism into tyrosine and other metabolites is not possible. And when it gets accumulated, it then converts itself into phenylketones. Now, these are very toxic compounds. Phenylketones further result in the formation of phenyl acetate, and the musty odor, the foul smell in the urine or sweat of the affected individual is because of the formation of phenyl acetate. Now, the accumulation of phenylalanine and other toxic metabolites results in several effects, unrelated effects now being seen, right? There is the musty odor in the sweat and the urine. There are several behavioral changes. The affected individual is suffering from seizures or abnormal neurological activity. There is a chance of, retarded or less or differential intelligence abilities. The size of the head or the cranium is severely reduced. The microcephaly is seen. And of course, when there is no tyrosine formation, no melanin synthesis, abnormal coloration of the skin and hair, and the lack of melanin can result in several cancers as well, because then there is no pigment to protect against the degrading radiation effects, right? So, as we can see, a single gene on chromosome 12, if it gets disrupted, there's a single gene mutation, the PAH gene, there won't be any PAH synthesis, and that can have multiple unrelated, some related effects, phenotypic effects in the body of the individual who is suffering with this single gene mutation.